here well, it's not so sunny today. In an overcast day here in California, Clovis, California. Blessed to be here. You know, I always try to bring on guests that I think bring moments of hope. And I met this gentleman recently. He's running for Congress. Shane Lewis, welcome.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about your family, a little bit about your background. So we just kind of have a sense of who you are.
So definitely not a politician. I know a lot of people say that. I had no aspirations to go into politics whatsoever. Fresh out of high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So I joined the military. I joined the Marine Corps in 1990, and I was there for 5 years. Was meritoriously promoted twice. Oh yeah, look at that. I look like a totally different person now. So it's kind of weird to look at that picture. Meritoriously promoted twice. I was an aviation technician in the military, supporting the Harrier AV-8B, Harrier 2 AV-8B, which is the vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. And earned my blood wings while I was in, which allowed me to jump out of a perfectly good aircraft at 1,200 feet off the deck, which was very interesting, and was honorably discharged. Then I moved to California because that was, the Bay Area is where all the jobs are for electronics people, and I worked for some commercial R&D. Pretty much most of my career has been in research and development. And then I went back to military contract and was working for a company that built fighter displays for the F-15, F-18, F-22, F-35, and Comanche before that program was cut. And now that company builds helmet-mounted display systems. So basically, the HUD, which was once fixed in an aircraft, is now on your head. And now the HUD can move with your head, so it's very easy to target aircraft. It's revolutionary technology and made dogfighting incredibly easy for some of the older aircraft like the F-15. And while I was there, I was in failure analysis. And failure analysis is basically something comes in from the field or something fails during manufacturing. You analyze why it failed and figure out whether it's a design issue, whether it's a mechanical, an electrical issue, optical, chemical, process, altitude, vibration. And it doesn't matter what the failure is. You have to figure out exactly what that specific component does and then figure out how to analyze it. So I did that for 11 years. And then I actually went into the medical device field, working at companies like Zeltiq, Thoratec, Abbott, St. Jude Medical, and ProCep Biorobotics, always working in the research and development field of things. Now, my family. Oh, go ahead. You were gonna ask.
No, I was just going to ask. Well, so how did this prepare you? Because I think your job and your family, and hopefully your faith, they all connect on our path. So how do those connect and get you to your path? So tell me about your family first.
Yes, that's I'll talk about my faith integrated to my family. So I was raised in a Christian home. I'm originally from Florida, and boy, my faith really came into play when I was in the military. And so I've always been a Christian, and my wife and I, my family, we have 4 kids, and we were part of a small church. And while there, I was worship leader. Music is a huge part of my life too. I was worship leader. I was elder for a time. And what got me into politics really is it's my family. I'm concerned about the direction of this country. It's not getting any better. It seems like it's getting worse. But what really got me into politics was when there was a politician on Fox News Sunday, and that politician said that the Second Amendment right could be regulated just like every other right. And that was the moment in time that I decided to get into politics, because I didn't think any right could be regulated, let alone the Second Amendment right.
I would say if we went through the whole process properly, you could have an amendment that would affect another amendment. But you would have to go through the whole process, ratification by the states, all the votes. Yeah, you can do some things, but that is a little bit of a gray area. For instance, we put in all of the prohibition rights, or took away the right to drink and gave it back. So there's some gray area with that, but you have to jump through all the hoops. It is purposely difficult to amend. Didn't mean to jump on your story.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Actually, this subject of rights, what government can do, what their purpose is, this is, in my opinion, the root of the issue that we have in our country. And this is what I feel is being used against the people to get what other people want. So, but anyway, besides that, so when I heard that, that's when I turned my failure analysis expertise to politics. And so before even going to school, I had read all the Federalist Papers, all the Anti-Federalist Papers. I read all the political philosophies, biographies, everything I could get my hands on. And then I went back to school. And when I went back to school, I went to school at a Christian university because I had been, what is it? Immersed, immersion, when you learn another language. I had already been immersed in the secular understanding of politics. And so I wanted to learn what was different from the Christian perspective. And so I went to Liberty University.
Ooh,
and I got my bachelor's degree. And I found that I wasn't very satisfied, and found out that really in any degree program, when the federal government gets involved, they have to teach you what the federal government wants you to learn, which means your education can be influenced by government and not necessarily reflect exactly the subject that you're trying to learn, right?
So it's about strings attached.
Anytime government is involved in anything, there's always strings attached. So since I wasn't happy with my bachelor's, I went back and pursued my master's. And honestly, that is still pending because I went the thesis track and I'm really close to finishing, but it's super hard when you're running a campaign. And I will just say this, we wonder why from administration to administration, there seems to be a difference in the direction of what is considered terrorism. And the reason why is because there's no fixed definition of terrorism. You take a DHS, I took a DHS course, and that's the first thing they tell you. In the very first week, they say there is no fixed definition of terrorism. In fact, there's over 1,200 definitions of terrorism, which means everything is just an opinion. So when an administration gets into office, a presidential administration gets into office, they can pick and choose which direction they want all of the three-letter agencies to go, which is why there's no uniform direction at the federal level right now for what government is supposed to do. So anyway, that's essentially why I got into politics and started finding out what was important to me, what the actual purpose of government was. And it really boils down to just one thing. And it's in the preamble to the Constitution, and that is to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves, which means government is an enabler for us to bless ourselves and our families and our communities and our jobs with our skills and our resources and our experiences. Government is just an enabler to allow us to do that. It's not meant to do that for us, because then what happens is people start depending on government for certain things, and government starts having a control over our lives and our families. And just like in school, where you start accepting, schools start accepting federal funds, your government can start getting into the middle of your lives and telling you what you can and cannot value. And it breaks down actually our constitutional republic to where the people are no longer the authority over government. Government is telling the people what they can value. And so my campaign is concentrating on trying to redirect and correct it's a big, it's like a big, hairy goal, right? It's a big, hairy goal. But generally speaking, that's what we need to do. And my campaign focuses on how do we get that authority back from our government so that our government is really listening to us.
So I'm going to shift a little bit.
Sure.
I'm going to shift to agriculture because I think that is an economic engine for your district. If you've got Salinas, there's a whole lot of green vegetables, etc., grown there that feed the nation. So I see this as absolutely an essential industry. And you have to use water. We're not wasting water. We're growing food. What kind of numbers? How much of your county is dependent, or how many jobs are dependent on agriculture?
What I can say is CD-18 feeds all of the United States and around the world. So agriculture in CD-18 is a huge part of what happens in our country and whether or not we have the food we need. So Salinas is a big part of that. So I've got Salinas, and then there's San Benito, Kings County, Fresno County. There's 4 counties, and actually even Santa Clara County. 5 of the 6 counties are involved in agriculture. So water availability and water rights for these counties, especially for Kings County, Fresno County, and Salinas, although their issues are different, it's a very, very big part of whether or not this district can thrive. And for over 15 years now, no one has done anything for this county. And really what it boils down to is politics when it comes to water.
So
the other thing that affects the county too, though, is immigration, right? So whether or not the federal government is being lax on immigration or is enforcing immigration, a shift in policy affects these counties tremendously. And since they're at the county level, all they can do is roll with the punches. They don't have any answers that they can provide except to get for what's happening, except to get help from wherever they can find it. So the federal government on the issue of water rights and immigration can impact hugely what happens in the counties. And the last thing, and the reason why I say that is because the agriculture bill, it spans decades and it's massive.
Right. It's one of the larger ones.
Yeah.
Outside of social spending, it is probably number 1. Well, military social spending, maybe 3. It's huge. The bill itself regulating and the amount of regulation telling farmers what they can and cannot do, what they're going to be able to, how much their crops are going to be worth, all of these things set by the federal government. I mean, they are really shackled by what the federal government is doing right now. So it's a case of central planning, which is antithetical to the Constitution.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on, and I will say this in all honesty, my background is failure analysis, so I get in there and I learn everything that I can about an issue, and then I can figure out what the issue is, and so one of the things that I plan to do is I get into office, I will work alongside these farmers. When I'm here in California, I will go down, I will work alongside farmers, I will work alongside workers to understand what the real issues are in these counties, because I don't think you can simply sit in Washington and know what the issues are looking at policy. You have to understand how these policies are affecting these farmers and how these larger farmers, the differences between the larger farmers and the smaller farmers, and how each one is affected, to come up with some type of solid agriculture bill that benefits everyone. So
it's kind of sad to me, though I get its reality, that the government is having to provide money for agriculture. If we just got out of the way and stopped monopolies, I think agriculture could thrive. But we've got
what's
all this
interesting, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I kind of finished my thought. Go ahead.
Okay. No, what's interesting is a lot of these policies that are well-meaning, what ends up happening is companies start to learn how to leverage, even government starts to learn how to leverage these well-meaning policies to take advantage of them. And then it's no longer a policy that is meant to help. It's a policy that people can take advantage of to gain an advantage. So specifically government does it a lot. And my campaign focuses more on government and how it's affecting competition in the marketplace, and how it's suppressing farmers and individuals and companies to try and free up some of the authority that the people should have over their government. So
who would be your allies if you were elected to Congress, where you, on day one, say you wanted to do one little simple thing that had to do, it doesn't have to be agriculture, but where could you get a win, and who would you ally with to try to get that win? Because not everything's hard in Congress. Some of it's just common sense we're not doing.
Yeah, I think a very so I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. My big thing. So let me just back up and say my wife is from Guatemala, and there is a specific issue that matters a lot to me, and that is immigration. Because what we're seeing in immigration right now, immigration in the census. So the way the census is right now is it's actually encouraging governments to take advantage of people, both migrants and citizens, right? We really don't have the necessary voice that we need in Washington right now. And it is hurting our communities, and it's hurting our farmers. And that's why I think my message will resonate, because we are so heavily Hispanic in CD-18. People want government to be fair, and illegal immigration right now is reinstitutionalizing a serf class. I would be very close to saying it's even reinstitutionalizing a slave class in this country, because these people have no rights, and
they have to live in the shadows.
They have to live in the shadows. So anyway, I'll give you a quick example. My wife and I know someone that was here illegally, and great guy, and I used to tell him all the time. He was married to someone that was an American citizen, and they had a daughter. And I would tell him, you need to get your citizenship. You need to get your citizenship. And eventually he found out that he couldn't make it up here, and he decided to move back down to Southern California. But his wife wasn't living under good conditions down there. And so he said to his wife, I'm moving back down there. And she said, no, I'm not moving back down there. You're getting your citizenship. And so my wife and I, he asked my wife and I if we would watch after his wife and his daughter while he went back to Guatemala. And we said, yeah, sure, they can live with us. And they were with us for 3 years. He got his citizenship, he came back, and now he owns his own business, and he makes 5 to 6 times more money than I do. His wife can stay home because she wants to, not because he wants her to, but because she wants to stay home. They have 4 kids. They're sending their oldest daughter to college. And here's the thing. We can either say we don't say anything to these people who are here illegally because, they're in such bad condition, in such bad shape. They're living in the shadows. They're just barely making it. Yep. Or what we can do is we can encourage these people to do things the right thing and give them the best possible life that they could have here in the United States. And my whole thing is I want to do the second thing. And so what we need to do is we need to solve illegal immigration for good, to where this never happens again in our country, because we fought a civil war. 600,000 people died in order to keep this from happening in our country. And we have been so lax on this, not just Democrats, Republicans and Democrats have encouraged this to the point to where now we don't even care. Now we're just defending, just leave these people alone because they're just barely hanging on. We're not even thinking about the bigger picture of what our country is supposed to do. And go ahead, you were going to say.
Well, I'm just thinking that you talk about they're barely hanging on, and by American standards, that's true. A lot of the countries they're coming from, the conditions they're living in here are prosperous enough that they're sending money back home. I'm not saying we don't need to solve this, but people have to come the right way. I love the fact that when you told your story about your neighbor, your friend, that he had to go back and get in line. I think that when people have to go through the process the right way, it changes who they are. They become better citizens. That they value this country, that they've made a commitment to assimilate. And that's one of the huge problems, is we've encouraged a lack of assimilation. So we have people coming here and they're Mexico first, or Sudan first, or Somalia first. And not necessarily in the Trump sense, but we all, as American citizens, should be America first, not some other country first.
Yeah, I agree with you. And part of assimilation, displaying that you want to assimilate, is abiding by law, right? But abiding by law tells society that you're willing to assimilate, right? So I completely agree with you. Law represents our national identity and what we value. And whenever you abide by law, what you're telling your neighbors, what you're telling your government, or the government you want to be a part of, the country you want to be a part of, is that you're willing to respect your neighbors in order to, by abiding by law and abiding by whatever government deems is acceptable within the confines of the Constitution. So here, I want to talk a little bit about what you were saying earlier about them coming here and they're living better here and sending money back home. And the question is, that only becomes relevant. Okay, that argument only becomes relevant if you don't what our country represents. Our country represents that, again, it is to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves. That is the purpose of our government, right? So that is the standard that we have for our government. And that is also the standard that we want these people that come here to have for our government, right? And if we do not hold standards according to our own, and instead look at where these people are coming from, then we won't have a national identity. We will have an identity that shifts with the individual. And what that does is it actually shifts it from the individual coming in, or actually I said from government, what government is supposed to do, to the individual. In other words, we no longer hold our government accountable to what it is supposed to do. And so we don't know what government is supposed to do. It becomes a shifting target that anyone can use. And if we want a government that works for the people, we have to make sure that our requirements is based on what our society requires, and that is in the Constitution with regards to the federal government.
What would be your top three issues? What would the big, if you had to pick three things to try to fix in your time in Congress, what would they be?
So that would be immigration. We need immigration reform, and we need census reform. And census reform includes apportionment, and it includes federal funds to the states.
So tell them what's wrong. Well, at least what I believe is wrong with it, with how they're doing it currently.
Sure. So the way apportionment works is each and every state is given 60 priority values. First off, everyone gets a House seat. All the states get one House seat. And then starting from 2 to 60, each state, based on raw population in each state, they're given priority values. Now, what happens is these priority values for each of the state then goes into a single column, and the first 385 is given House seats. The issue with this is that you have different states. You have 50 total states competing with priority values. It's not linear for all the states. You're competing for like 308 seats. In some cases, these priority values for seats in the House are only 75 people apart. So what you're talking about is when you have illegal immigration coming in, you're talking about priority values going up or down based on less than 100 people between states.
So in a brief summary of that is the fact that illegals are counted in the census changes how those seats are apportioned, how you decide, how you divide up to 435. Well, it's 435 minus everybody gets one, minus 50.
Right. Right. And what that does is at the same time, you're like, well, okay, well, they're just coming here because they want a better life. How does that affect American citizens? The way that affects American citizens is if illegal immigration is allowed to happen and they're counted on the census, the federal government gives money back to the states based on raw population. And that money is based on primarily three things: raw population value, the amount of people below the poverty line, and population density. So if you have a state that is allowing illegal immigrants to come into the state, that is exacerbating people that's below the poverty line. The federal government gives the state more money for these people, and it increases population density in these larger cities. And so what the state of California has done is they have learned to maximize the formula to get federal funds from the federal government. And those federal funds amounts to hundreds of millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. So, and back to the citizen, how that affects you. If you don't like what your state government is doing, you leave the state. Let's say you pay $11,000 in state taxes. Your $11,000 is nothing compared to the hundreds of millions of dollars that your state is getting from the federal government. And by the way, since we are, as citizens, giving up our taxes on our wages and our salaries up front, we are giving up any authority we have over government because we can't take away or give any more than what we're giving. So they're just guaranteed to get this money from every wage and salary earner.
Well, I think that's kind of theft of the taxpayer. If we're paying for people that are here illegally, then my taxes are being stolen from me, because the whole purpose of taxes is to secure my liberties, ensure a common defense, and some basic government things that have to do with safety.
Right, exactly. And the thing is we have all of this big money that is, we are supposed to be the only legitimate fountain of power, according to Federalist 49, right? We're supposed to be the only legitimate fountain of power. And we are the only legitimate fountain of power.
By we, you mean the individual?
Yes.
Okay.
The wage and the salary owner, right? Or wage and salary, the employee, the people, and the business owner. We are supposed to be. But our fountain of power is tax revenue. If we're giving that tax revenue up, we have no power, right? We have no authority over government. And not only that, but they have other fountains of power. They can borrow money from the Federal Reserve. And they have all of these, there's these nonprofits and these NGOs that are fountains of power. And there's the healthcare industries. All of these industries are giving kickbacks to government. We cannot compete if we are giving up our power in tax revenue. That's all there is to it.
So how do we stop that loop? Because you alluded to a private entity, let's say the vaccine industry, that donates to the politician. When the politician, let's say they retire, they get a great cushy position on a board. You've got lobbying. You've got this continual circle. How do you break that circle? Because it's a death spiral, not actually a circle.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think we're nearing I don't know, I could be wrong, but it seems like we're nearing the end of that spiral because our kids aren't doing better than we are. For every metric, we're failing the next generation. So I think what we need to do, it's not a quick fix. I think we need to refine the census. We give CSI funds to public schools locally. We are rewarding them for failure. We're not rewarding them for recovery. So, and I was on a school side council for a year, and this school was given $250,000. They did nothing with those funds to make the kids recover the school. They just basically used it for extracurricular activities to make the kids feel good. So I think the federal government needs to redefine. We need to redefine the census. We need to redefine apportionment. We need to give money back to the citizens. We need to make sure whatever the federal government is doing for federal funds to our schools, we need to make sure that it's encouraging for the schools to achieve and not simply spend money. And then the other thing is we need civics back in our classroom from grade 3 to grade 12. And the other thing we need to do is...
Well, it's real simple. We still have a Department of Education, which I wish would go, but as long as we have it, there's one of the places through the legislative power, the power of the purse that the legislature has, you could force schools. Because in some states and in some places, we still have civics. And then a whole lot in California, we barely do. In some cases, we don't, depending on the school district.
Yes. Yes. And if you do not have civics, and people don't actually know what their government is supposed to do, anyone can tell you anything. They can tell you, anything is unconstitutional simply because maybe you don't like the policy. And they can get away with it. So we need a smart citizenry that actually knows the difference and can hold government accountable. Right now, they can't because everything is a political issue.
Yes, but it's easier than ever before. Whether you're going for something pretty conservative like Constitution is the Solution by John Birch Society, or Hillsdale College, Constitution 101, or Patriot Academy, Rick Green, Constitution Alive. There are all of these free courses that are great introductions without actually reading the Federalist Papers. That's going the extra step. If we could just get people to do those basics, and they're free. Everyone I mentioned is free and online.
Yes, but everyone is free to pursue what they want. So what we need to do is we need to raise our kids up in public schools to have two things, actually. One is civics. The other is encourage financial independence, because right now we're just encouraged to go out, get a job, earn a living, and wash and repeat. And what that really should be is just a part of the whole. And we need to teach people how to invest. People how to invest, how to become independently wealthy, so that these people can run for office. We need people to run for office. We need good people to run for office. There's no reason why we should have people in office that are 30, 40 years in there. And I think that just goes to show that people don't necessarily understand the level of impact that their government has on their life.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. We're starting to wrap down. We're down to about 8 minutes.
Okay.
You mentioned, I asked for 3 issues, and we kind of bounced around. We definitely got to immigration. What would be the other 2?
Okay. One was immigration. The other was census.
Okay, got it.
Right. And the other one is, I'm stuck between the third one. Education is one, but also there's a little pet project that I think people might and the federal government might be for, and that is exempting funds spent by the individual on Bill of Rights issues, MAHA initiatives, such as from income. So income is anything where money makes money. Mm-hmm. Your investments make money for you. So if you have a gym membership, if you buy gym equipment, anything you do to better your own life, that should be taken off of your income, in my opinion. So because what it's going to do is it's going to make you less dependent on government, on healthcare. You're going to live better. You're going to feel better. You're going to be more healthy. It's going to be something that's going to take away from the expenses that government has to pay for healthcare, and it's going to encourage you to be self-governing. You're going to be happy, and your government is going to benefit from it.
Well, in California, largely what I see being taught is the idea that we have the freedom to do whatever we want, as opposed to liberty, which comes with responsibility. I think we have to teach part of the responsibility, and we have to bring back accountability, because freedom means you can do whatever you want, and then when there's no accountability, they really think even the things that we are technically against the law, there's no teeth. So it's, instead of just freedom, we have people going wild. And I think we need to establish responsibility. Go ahead.
I would take it a step further. And when it comes to government is not required to secure every single right that we have. Government has a very specific purpose, and that is to govern and to secure the blessings of liberty. So what all government does, honestly, is they just observe. People in government observe what blesses society. And the majority of people that demonstrate what blesses society, all they do is secure it. They secure it because it becomes a foundational principle for the society. And then the state looks at all of the counties and looks at all the counties in the state and says, gosh, this is what we all have in common in our counties, in the majority of counties. We're going to secure this at the federal, at the state level. And then the state does that in the same way. So it is not only just that we have rights, but these rights, like you're saying, these liberties demonstrate that it supports society. And so rights are not just secured at each of these governmental levels simply because we feel like we deserve them. They are secured at each of these levels because it demonstrates that it is critical to our forms of government and our societies and our communities. And I think that is the distinction that's missing today, that we all have individual rights. If there's not a law against it, you have an individual right to do whatever you want. But when it comes to government securing something, it has to demonstrate that it is a blessing on society. And by demonstrating that is the case, it actually supports society. And things at the federal level that are common to all of the states or the majority of the states actually becomes a principle. And what happens, I will say this, there's an abuse of liberty and there's abuse of power. And abuse of power happens whenever someone, a politician, wants to secure a right or a liberty that doesn't belong at a level of government. So let's say there is an individual right or liberty that is crucial to a group of people, but it's not crucial to a community. But what they do is you have pacts sometimes that try and supplant this individual liberty into a higher form of government that fractures the foundation of what our government represents and what society needs in order to flourish. And all of a sudden what you have is you have two factions in society doing this, fighting because a politician has chosen to promote the idea of a pact at a level of government that doesn't belong.
I want to make sure that if people want to know more about you, that they can find you. So social medias, website, things like that. And then I want to end with about a minute of why are you hopeful?
Sure. Okay. So you can reach me, Shane Lewis for Congress at gmail.com. I'm on Facebook, X. You can find me there. I'm on Twitter. Let's see, what am I missing?
Maybe Truth Social, maybe Instagram.
So we're on X, Truth Social. We're getting there. We haven't started there. I'm working on my campaign coordinator for that. So, okay. So why am I hopeful? I'll tell you why I'm hopeful, because nothing changes unless people are hurting, to be honest with you. It takes people to realize that there's a problem in order to fix it. And what I am saying is that I will use my failure analysis skills. I will get into the trenches with the people that I'm representing. I will get to know everyone that I possibly can and understand how I can help them. And I can tell you right now, Zoe Lofgren is not going to get in the trenches. She is not going to go work side by side with farmers. She is not going to go work side by side with farm workers. She is not going to go to all of these different places to understand their issues and to see what government is doing that is impeding the flourishing that could have happened in CD-18. And there is no one that's going to go up to the federal government and say, this is how we are affecting the people in our states. And by the way, this is what the state of California is doing that's affecting your state, and now it's taken away from your state being able to flourish and have representation at the federal level. And from that, I will be able to gain influence in Congress.
Well, Shane, I sure thank you for joining me today, and I wish you the best of luck in your run, because I'm not so impressed with Zoe Lofgren. She doesn't seem, might be able to spell the word Constitution, but I doubt she has much of an idea of what's in it, and we need people that defend freedom. Good luck on your run. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist. Folks, go out there and have a blessed day.
Thank you.